All right, now this lecture is going to be really simple and straightforward. We're just going to be downloading Ubuntu Server. So I'm opening my web browser and I'm going to type in Ubuntu Server download. And I'm just searching from Google. If you don't get these results, or if you just want to go to the page directly, it's www.ubuntu.com/download/server. So I'm going to click on that first result there. And we can see Ubuntu, download Ubuntu Server, and then there's 14.04.4 LTS. This version may be different depending on when you're watching this video. They patch this pretty frequently, so I really doubt it'll be the same version that I'm seeing. But it's whichever you choose is fine. Just make sure it's Ubuntu Server. Now I'm going to click download. And it's a fairly large, it's about 600 megabytes, I think, somewhere in the 500 megabyte range. So it'll take a little bit of time depending on your internet speed. So just let this download and I will check back with you once it's finished, and we'll get building our server and we'll be able to use this ISO. So I will see you in the next lecture.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and download our software that's going to manage our virtual machines.
So the software is called VirtualBox. So we're going to go to www.virtualbox.org. Okay, so it's pre-filled for me, so I'm going to hit enter. All right, we're going to click on this download section over here. And we're going to download VirtualBox 5.0.10 for Windows hosts. Now this version, it could be different for you. If it says a different version, it's not a big deal. So we'll just click the x86/AMD and we'll hit save. Okay, we'll view this download. All right, and we will just wait for this to finish downloading. Okay, so that has gone ahead and downloaded, so I'm going to click run. All right, bring this over here, so we're going to click next. And we're just going to go ahead and leave all these options checked, and we'll select next again. I'm not going to create one on the quick launch bar. You can leave that there if you want. And we're going to want to register file associations, and we're going to want to create a desktop shortcut. That's fine. We'll say yes. Install. Okay, so we got that installing now. It's asking me, would you like to install device drivers or device software? Now we're going to want to go ahead and say yes, install. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and say start Oracle VM VirtualBox after installation. So leave that checked and click finish. All right, and there we go. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and close out of this web browser, and I'm going to take my shortcut and I'm going to stick it over here on the desktop. All right, in this lecture, we're going to create the virtual machine that's going to host our website. Now, I've started Oracle VM VirtualBox, and I'm going to click right here on this little star, or whatever you want to call it, sun, blue sun, I guess, I don't know what that is. But just click on New, and we're going to name the operating system. I'm sorry, we're going to name the virtual machine and choose the operating system. So I'm going to name this Ubuntu Web Server. And it automatically changed the type to Linux and Linux 64-bit, which is fine. So we'll click next. Now the default requirement, or the minimum requirement for the RAM on Ubuntu is 768 megabytes. This is really, really low, which is awesome. That's exactly what we want. That's the great thing about Ubuntu Linux is that it's so lightweight. So I'm just going to leave it at 768 meg. If you want to increase it, you can if you'd like your server to be a little bit faster, but that's good enough for most of us. So I'll click next. We're going to create the virtual hard disk now. I'm just going to leave this as a VDI file. You can choose any of these if you'd like, but if you don't have any preference, then just leave it at VDI and click next. Now, I do want to choose dynamically allocated, and if you are tight on space on your computer, or if you don't want the hard drive to take up any more space than it needs to, choose dynamically allocated. Just know that when we click next, we're going to choose the actual size, the maximum size of the hard drive. So if we choose dynamically allocated and set the maximum size to 8 gigabytes, the hard drive may start out at 250 megabytes, but eventually as you install files, as you build your website, that hard disk file will grow in size all the way up to 8 gigabytes. So just know that if you choose dynamically sized, then it's going to be changing up and down based on whatever you have installed on your server. So I'm going to click create. Okay, so now the virtual machine is created. One more thing that we need to do is right click on the VM, choose settings, go into the network, and we're going to change this attached to from NAT to bridged adapter. That will allow us to talk to the virtual machine from our host computer. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and click OK. Oh, one more. So let's just go ahead and click on storage, and let's mount the Ubuntu ISO. So storage, and then we're going to select this disk icon, and I'm going to select this drop down, and I'm going to click choose virtual optical disk drive. And I'm going to navigate to where I downloaded Ubuntu 14 server version. Okay, so I'll click open. You can check live CD/DVD and click OK. All right, so now our virtual machine is set up and its physical hardware or virtual hardware has been configured, so we're ready to move on to the next lecture. All right, now we're ready to install the operating system. So let's click on the server and we'll choose the start button up here. We'll wait for this to pop up. Okay, so it's over here on this screen. I'm going to drag it over. Okay, so I'm going to click in the middle here just to bring the VM into focus, and I'm going to choose English as the language. You can use the up and down arrows to cycle through your options. Press enter, and we want to install Ubuntu Server, so press enter again. Now, a little trick, you can hit right control and press F, and it'll bring the virtual machine into full screen. I'm going to get rid of this little pop-up right there. We don't need that. And I'm just going to click back on the virtual machine. Now I'm going to choose English again, United States. Well, I'm going to choose no when it asks me to configure the keyboard. Most of us won't have to do that. Okay, click English US again. English US for the keyboard layout. Now we're going to let it detect the hardware, and so this will just take a second. Okay, so now we can type in the host name, and I'm going to name this web server. Okay, and I'm just going to press continue or press enter to continue. Now here's my full name, Paul Hill, and my username I'm just going to leave it Paul H. You can put in whatever you want, just make sure you remember whatever you put in because that's very important. I'm going to type in my password. Again, very important that you remember this. I'm going to re-enter the password, press enter to continue. No, I don't want to encrypt my home directory. You can if you want. I wouldn't recommend it. Just say no, and we'll move on. Okay, it wants to set my time to America, New York. That's fine. I'll just say yes. It's detecting hardware again. Okay, we can just leave this at the default option, use the entire disk, and set up LVM. So just press enter. Enter again, and it's going to ask us, do we want to write the changes? We're going to say yes. It's just kind of a safety backup to make sure that you don't make changes to the wrong disk. We're going to use 8.3 gigabytes. Press enter. Yes, we want to write the changes again. Okay, so it's formatting the partitions right now. That's great. All right, on the HTTP proxy information, I'm not using a proxy. I doubt you are. Just press enter to continue, or enter your proxy information if you are. I'm going to choose install security updates automatically and press enter. Okay, now this is very important. What we need to choose is Open SSH server, and you choose it by pressing spacebar. And then I press the down arrow so I get to LAMP and press spacebar again. And that stands for Linux, Apache, and MySQL. And that's what we're going to be using for our web server. And the last one I'm going to choose is Samba file server. So choose those three things and press continue. Okay, this is really important. So when you're if you want to set up WordPress, you have to be able to log into MySQL, and the username is going to be root, but you're setting the password right now. I'm going to set this password to the same password I use for my user account. Okay, so it's going to ask me to repeat the password, and I would really recommend that you write that down somewhere. So press continue or enter to continue. Okay, it's asked us, do we want to install the grub loader? And yes, this is the case. We do want to do this. The only reason I asked this, if you already have an OS installed, you might not want to reinstall this grub loader, but we're going to do it. So press enter on yes. Okay, so we're finished with the installation. So I'm going to press enter on continue. It'll just finish up the installation and reboot the server. Okay, so the installation is finished and we're brought to the login screen. That's all we need to do for this lecture, so I will see you in the next one. All right, so now we're ready to log into the server. So I'm going to type in my username and the password that I created, and we're brought to the dashboard. Now, first thing you want to do is type in apt-get update, okay? And we'll want to press enter, and we need to run this as sudo, so sorry about that. So type in sudo apt-get update, and it's going to ask you for your password. Type in your password, okay, and let this run. Okay, so it's done with the package list, so press the up arrow, and instead of update, we need to backspace and type in upgrade. Now press enter, and it's going to ask us, do you want to continue? Press Y and press enter. So now this might take a minute. It's going to update all of our apps that we have installed, all of our packages. So we'll let this run and we'll check back when it's done. Okay, so the upgrade is done and we're done updating our Ubuntu server. So that's all we need to do for now. I will see you in the next lecture. All right, in this lecture, I'm going to show you how to set a static IP address of your computer. And what that means is that when you type in ifconfig ethernet 0, you get this IP of 192.168.1.170. Now this can change because you're getting the IP address from DHCP. So we need to set this IP address to be static so it won't ever change. So that way when you're working on your web server, you won't have to remount your drives, which we're going to learn how to do, or have to type in different IP address into your web browser. So I'm going to go ahead and pop this into full screen, and what we're going to do is we're going to type in the command sudo nano, and we're going to edit the file under etc/network/interfaces. Okay, and it's going to ask for my sudo password. I'll enter that in, and right here, go all the way down to the bottom. We have this last line here, iface ethernet 0 inet DHCP. We need to change from DHCP and put that to static. Now we're going to enter a new line, and we're going to type in address, and we're going to set this to the same IP address we had before, 192.168.1.170. Okay, now we're going to do net mask, and this will be 255.255.255.0. That's going to be the same no matter what your settings are. Now your IP address might look .0 or .1. This number will very unlikely be the same. It's probably not going to be .170. So just make sure that whatever you got when you ran ifconfig, that's what you set here. Okay. Now the next line we're going to do is type in gateway. And this is going to be 192.168.1. For me, it's .1. So whatever you entered up here, it'll be the same right here. So if you're a .0, when you type ifconfig, you get .0, just type in .0. For me, it's .1, and type in .1. So it could be .0.1 or whatever, but generally it's the last octet of it is going to be .1. Now we're going to type in the DNS name servers. And we're going to use Google, which this IP address is really easy, 8.8.8.8. Okay. Now we're going to do left control, and we're going to do X, and we're going to save the changes. Now I'm just going to reboot the service. So sudo shutdown -R, and we're going to shut it down now. So sudo shutdown --R for reboot, and now for execute this command immediately. So press enter. System's going for a shutdown. Let this run. All right, so now we'll log back in, type in my password. Okay, so now we're going to type in clear to clear the screen, press enter, ifconfig, and we're going to do ethernet 0. And we can see the IP address is 192.168.1.170. If you broke something in the interfaces config, this IP address would not work. It wouldn't be .170. So this is good. So now what we need to do is I'm going to pop out of full screen, hit right control and F. And I'm going to open command prompt by searching for CMD. See, I'll drag this over to this screen so you can see it. And I'm going to try and ping 192.168.1.170, and we'll make sure that everything's still working. Okay, so we're getting a reply from the IP, so that's great. Now we have a static IP, so we don't have to worry about these numbers changing. I'll see you in the next lecture. All right, in this lecture, we're going to set up our Samba Share. So the first thing that we need to do is log into the server, and once you're logged in, we need to edit the Samba config file. So to do that, we're going to type in sudo, which stands for super user do. It's like user access control on Windows. And we're going to type in nano, which nano is like notepad or text pad in Windows. And then we're going to type the path to the file. So we're going to type in etsy/samba/smb.conf. And you can use tab completion just as a little hint. So if we type in smb, press tab, it'll auto-complete it. And if we backspace to here, press tab twice, it'll list all the files in that directory. So smb.conf. This isn't a Linux course, but you're going to have to work with Linux for a little bit, so I'll just try and help you out as much as I can. So press enter. It's going to ask for my sudo password. Enter that information. Okay, so now we're brought up to the notepad, the nano editor. So we're going to press page down, and we're going to scroll all the way down to the bottom. Okay, so it takes my cursor all the way down to the bottom. I'm scrolling down by pressing page down, and I'm going to type an open bracket, and I'm going to name my file share website files, and then end that with a closing bracket. Now, this is the name of our share that'll show up in Windows. So what we need to do is type in a parameter, path, make sure you spell it right, equals /var. That's very important that you get this right. And then /www. Okay, so the path is /var/www. We want to make this writable, so writable equals yes, and that's all we need to do. So right control and X, it'll ask us, do you want to save the modified buffer? Press Y, and we'll leave it the same file name. Press enter. Now we need to restart the Samba server. So type in sudo, and we're going to type in /etsy/init.d/Samba, and then we're going to type in restart. Okay, so the Samba interface has restarted. Now, one last thing that we need to do is we need to set the permissions on our /var/www directory so that we can edit it from our Windows side. So to do that, type in sudo chmod-r, uppercase R, for recursive, and we're going to do space 777/var/www. So sudo superuserdo, chmod is changing the user or the folder permissions, -r is recursive, so to do every folder under the target directory. 777 means we can write and execute on the directory, and finally we're giving the path to the directory. So press enter, and the command was taken successfully. Now, what we need to do is test to see if we can access this file. And I'm going to type in if config eth0, okay, eth0. Press enter, and we can see that it gives eth0, and that's short for Ethernet, and we can see the link and cap, and the second line, it says inet address 192.168.1.170. Now, I'm going to hit right control and F to pop out a full screen. I'm going to open command prompt on my host computer. Okay. Drag this over here so you guys can see this. So this is not within the virtual machine. This is on my host machine. And to open command prompt, you press the Windows key and type in CMD, and command prompt will show up. And I'm going to type in ping 192.168.1.170. Okay, now I'm getting reply from the Ubuntu web server. That's a good thing. That means we can talk. So what I need to do next is open Windows Explorer, and I need to type in, I'm going to drag it over here so you guys can see this. I'm going to type in that network address that we just pinged. So I'm going to type in 192. Two backslashes, then 192.168.1.170. And I'm going to press enter. And now we can see the website files. This is what we created in Samba. So if I double click on this, it'll take a second. Okay, so now we're prompted for the username and password, but we didn't set up a username and password. We're just going to use our Linux username and password. Okay, so Linux username, and then my Linux password I used to log into the virtual machine. Press OK. And we're taken to HTML and index.html. Okay, so now we can see the Samba file share is working. We can access all of our files, and we're good to go. So that's all we need to do in this lecture. I'll see you in the next one. Okay, so now we've done all this work in setting a static IP, installing all our software, configuring settings. Now let's test the website and see if it works. So let's open our web browser. I'm just going to go to bring my web browser up here. I'll drag it over to the side so you guys can see it. Okay, so let me shrink this down so that we can see both the web browser and our Ubuntu server. So just log in, just in case you can't remember the IP address. We can type in ifconfig, and it's .170 is what we just set it to. So we'll do 192 in the address bar of our web browser, .168.1.170. Now I'm going to press enter, and it takes us to the Apache 2 Ubuntu default page. So if I maximize this screen, we can see this means our web server is working. So Apache's working on the server, and that's really good. This is what we want to see when we go to our IP address. Okay, now this is a little tricky to type in all these numbers, and I know we said to be static, but we can create a DNS entry that instead of typing in the IP address, we type in a name kind of like a website name, like google.com or something like that. So let me show you how to do that. And I'm going to drag my taskbar over here to this side just so you guys can see what I'm going to do. And I'm going to close the web browser. I'm going to click on Start, and I'll type in Notepad. And I'm going to right click and say Run as Administrator. Now, it's kind of funny, but this is similar to doing sudo. Okay, so we're going to open this note editor like Nano we use in Linux. We're going to open Notepad as an administrator. So this is the equivalent of entering sudo on Linux. So I'm going to click File, Open, and I've already navigated there, but I'm under C, Windows, System32, Drivers, and Etsy. Now in the bottom right here, I need to click this drop down and choose All Files. And I'm going to select this host file, and I'm going to click Open. Okay, now I'm going to go down to the bottom, and I'm going to go down 2 lines and hit Shift 3 to put in a hashtag sign or a pound mark. And this is a comment, so I'm just going to name this my local web server DNS. Okay, so the way this works is it's IP address followed by DNS name, or the name that you want the to equal to or route to the IP address. So our IP address of our server is 192.168.1.170, and I'm going to name it, you can put in whatever you want. So I'm going to just call it my web lab, spell that right, my web lab dot test, or I'm just going to name it .paul. Okay, because there's no .paul. I don't want to use something like google.com or a website that actually exists, because if I try to go to that website, it'll reroute me to my local web server. So you don't have to have the dot. You can just leave it at my web lab if you'd like. And why don't we just do that? Just keep it simple. That way we don't have to worry about taking the name of a real website. Although it doesn't matter to anyone except for you. This local computer is the only computer that will be affected by this DNS. All right. So if you go on your computer downstairs and you try to go to my web lab, it's not going to reroute you to .170, okay, because this is a local file that's stored on the local computer. So we'll hit File and Save. Now I'm going to take my web browser here, pop this open, and let's see, open my web browser. Okay, so I'm going to drag this over here, and I'm going to type in http://, and instead of that IP address, I'm just going to type in my web lab. I'm going to press enter, and it takes us to our website. Okay, so another way that we can test is if I open command prompt, type in cmd, drag this over here so you can see. If I ping my web lab, and press enter, it should translate to this IP address. So if I press enter, we're getting a reply from 192.168.1.170. So my web lab now translates to that IP address. So you can make it any kind of alias you want. Now, if you just type in my web lab like this and just press enter, sometimes Google will try to search for my web lab because it won't understand exactly what you're trying to do. So sometimes it's important, depending on what you create the name in your host file, to type in http:// for the first time. Okay, and you can make this a .com if you want it, but no one else is going to be able to visit it. It's just all local. So I hope that helps you guys. I hope that can save you a little bit of time so you don't have to type in the whole IP address, and I will see you in the next lecture. All right, so I hope you enjoyed the course. I hope you learned some things from it. I hope you're able to take advantage of the course and take these foundational blocks that I gave you and build on them and learn more things. Any way that you can get practical experience is awesome for you. So hope that helps. And the last lecture here, I just wanted to give you a bit of a gift here. I'm giving all of my students who enroll in this free course 50% off coupons for my other two courses. So right now I just have Active Directory and Group Policy 2012, and I have a Windows System Administration for Beginners course. That course is 50% off, $10, and this one's 50% off and it's $12. So I have the links here. If you check the attached resources, you can find that. And if you're interested in checking them out, just go ahead and give them a preview. There's preview lectures on there. You can give them a look, and if you like it, there's a 50% off discount for you. So also, if you go to my website, itflea.com, you can subscribe to my newsletter, and I am giving, whenever I launch a new premium course, I give away 100 coupons to my entire newsletter. Now, those are first come, first serve, so whoever is the first 100 to click on the coupon and redeem the coupon, then they get it. And then, if someone comes maybe 5 minutes later, and they might miss it. So it's a bit of first come, first serve, but I do it on every new course that I create. And it helps me because I can get feedback from the first 100, and they can say, hey, you need to fix this, or I didn't quite understand this lecture. And they can leave a review on the course, and they get it for free, but it also helps me out as I get really valuable feedback. And I also send out, more discounts and things like that on this. And then we have a blog that I'll cover different things like the Linux cheat sheet I put up on here. And then like some of my instructor success, like different success things that I found that have worked as an instructor. So if you're interested in building courses on Udemy, you could find this blog to be useful. So yeah, just check out my site. Feel free to subscribe, and thanks for checking out the course. And hopefully I will see you in the next course.